Reading a detailed distribution map of Vancouver. This map looks practical the moment you see it. No decorative flourishes, no scenic exaggerations, just streets, neighborhoods, water, parks, and a repeating symbol of McDonald's. This is a brand distribution map, and its purpose is very specific. It is designed to answer one question clearly: where is this service available, and how evenly does it cover the city? Once you start reading it with that lens, the map becomes far more interesting than it first appears. First impression: a city broken into service zones. At a glance, the map feels dense around the center and lighter towards the edges. That is not accidental. Retail distribution maps often reveal functional city boundaries, not administrative ones. The city here is divided by accessibility, population density, and movement patterns rather than municipal lines. The repeating icons immediately suggest market saturation, competitive spacing, service reach. Before we read a single street name, we already understand that this is a map about coverage, not geography alone. Water as a hard constraint. One of the strongest elements on this map is water. English Bay, Burrard Inlet, and the surrounding coastline carve the city into distinct zones. Unlike inland cities, Vancouver is physically constrained by water on multiple sides. Retail expansion here cannot ignore geography. The map shows this clearly. Locations cluster inland and along bridges, shorelines create natural gaps, access points become strategic rather than optional. This is a reminder that even global brands must obey physical geography. Downtown as the anchor point. The highest concentration of symbols appear in and around the downtown peninsula. This tells us several things at once: high foot traffic, dense residential and commercial mix, transit convergence, and tourist activity. Downtown acts as a demand anchor. Retail maps often exaggerate this effect visually, but here it emerges naturally through repetition rather than scale manipulation. The map does not say downtown is important, the pattern proves it. Arterial roads as distribution lines. Now look closely at the street network. Major roads are emphasized through thickness and continuity. You will notice that many retail locations sit along arterials, near intersections, close to bridge approaches, and adjacent to high capacity routes. This is classic vehicular accessibility logic. Retail chains like consistency. They rely on predictable traffic flow, visibility, and ease of entry. The map reveals this by how tightly symbols align with the road hierarchy. This is not a random placement, it is engineered presence. Neighborhood coverage without overlap. One of the most interesting aspects of this map is spacing. Locations are close enough to ensure coverage, but rarely so close that they cannibalize each other. Cartographically, this kind of map lets you infer catchment areas, walk-in versus drive-through emphasis, residential density thresholds. Even without circles or buffers drawn, your eye starts to imagine invisible zones around each point. That is effective spatial communication. Parks as voids, not opportunities. Large green areas like Stanley Park and other urban parks appear as screen gaps. Notice what does not happen. Retail symbols do not intrude into these spaces. Instead, they sit along the edges. This tells us two things. Parks reduce demand density. Access is concentrated at entrances rather than interiors. Bridges as strategic nodes. Where land is connected by bridges, the pattern tightens. Approaches to bridges show higher clustering because bridges compress movement. Everyone must pass through a few fixed points. Retail distribution maps almost always reveal this phenomenon, and Vancouver is a textbook example. The map makes this visible without highlighting it explicitly, that geography forces movement and movement shapes placement. Color and symbol discipline. The color palette is restrained. Roads are warm and readable, water is calm and receding, parks are green but not dominant, retail symbols are bold but consistent. This discipline matters. If everything shouted, nothing would be legible. Scale that encourages comparison. At this scale, the city feels navigable. Distances between locations appear manageable, coverage feels reassuring rather than sparse. This is intentional. Retail maps often compress perceived distance slightly to communicate convenience. The message is subtle but powerful. You are never far from service. This is psychological cartography as much as spatial cartography. What this map leaves out: there are no demographics, sales volumes, competitive locations, traffic counts, and zoning overlays. Yet the map still communicates all of these indirectly. That is the strength of a well designed distribution map. It lets patterns speak without annotation. How a map like this is created. This type of map was built using GIS street base layers, point location datasets, manual symbol placement and adjustment, scale specific generalization, and print to screen optimized styling. The hardest part is not data accuracy, it is decluttering. Too many labels and the pattern disappears. Too few and the context is lost. This map balances those pressures carefully. What this map is really showing. On the surface, this is a brand location map, but underneath it shows where people live and move, how geography constrains choice, which corridors matter most, how cities are experienced day to day, and retail maps are often dismissed as commercial tools. In reality, they are some of the clearest reflections of urban behavior. People vote with their feet, cars, and routines. Brands follow those votes. Closing thought: some maps tell you where things are, others tell you how a city works. This one does the second. By looking at where service clusters, where it avoids, and how it aligns with infrastructure, we gain insight into Vancouver's everyday geography. Not the postcard version, the functional one. And that is exactly why maps like this belong in serious geographic storytelling. If you want a custom map developed for your business and personal needs, reach out to mapsandlocations.com and we'll help you craft the perfect map for your desires. Thank you for watching. Look out for the next one.